Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Hello and welcome to episode 384 of the AFTN podcast, the only podcast recorded from the host's parents' basement. I'm here with Peter Hicken.
Hi.
And Nicholas Ruprecht.
Hello.
Nick's season debut today. Nervous like the Whitecaps or relaxed like...
I think, if I can do better than the Whitecaps, that'll be okay.
Okay. I'm not sure what a 3-1 loss in podcast terms is, but I'm sure we'll find out in the next 40 minutes or so. So, gentlemen, first game of the season done and dusted. It's been reviewed and dissected a bit too much, I would say. But let's just get your brief thoughts on the first game, just to see your headspace from the fallout of that Kansas defeat.
Disappointing.
I think that's a pretty wide sentiment, yeah. Anything specifically, like, just to kind of get into the detail?
Specific disappointment?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like the disappointment where you buy a bad car.
Okay.
That kind of disappointment.
I think we're all on the same page about that one. How about you, Peter?
I mean, on one hand, I think, disappointment, absolutely, based on the fact that the performance was kind of night and day compared to the preseason.
Yeah.
But when I actually when you look at the starting 11, it's like there's hardly any new players from last year other than Cavallini.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because what was disappointing was the performance. It was like watching a game last year.
Yeah.
That game could have been smack in the middle of July last year.
It could have. Yeah.
But there are new additions, and I'm sure we'll talk about them.
I like the new car disappointment analogy. Not because it hits home to me particularly, but like the build-up, right? The expectation versus the reality, the level of performance. I listened in the car this week. I was listening to TSN 1040, and there was an interview with Mark DeSantis, and he went on about how the players were nervous, right? The build-up for the game kind of made them kind of not relax. He kept using the word relax a lot, and that must be important for, his game prep or whatever, but you can kind of see it on the field. But it was one of the few games, and I will say this, that the more I thought about it after the game, the less disappointed I was. So there was a few things, like the XG numbers. I don't know if you guys saw those, but like...
I didn't see them.
Expected goals?
Yeah. The expected goals, yeah. So two for the Whitecaps, and 0.8 or something for Kansas. So they just finished their chances very, very well. The one thing the one sour taste that hasn't gone away is how just poor the midfield has been. But we'll get into all of that starting right now. Let's get into some team news for the Whitecaps. So before we get into all this, LA Galaxy away this year. First away game. Not the nicest opponent you would want to see. Definitely not what the backline wants to see in terms of Chicharito and Christian Pavon running at you with the ball. But we'll save LA for the LA section. A bit of team news. No Godoy yet, which is frustrating, I imagine. Like we're not doctors here, but
you're an immigrant, so you might have some insight.
He's not. He doesn't have the paperwork struggle. We'll save my immigrant jibes for who was it? Usu has his paperwork. Ranko does not have his paperwork.
No, I don't believe he has his paperwork.
Bickle got his just the other day, and there must be one more. I forget the name of the Korean player we're about to sign, but
Dong.
But yeah, the moment that goes through, you can add 3 weeks to when he actually joins the team, right?
Damn.
We're not doctors and we're not immigration lawyers either, so let's veer clear of that. But the Godoy thing, right? We've been told that he is nursing himself back to health and they're playing it safe with him. Peter, at what point do we just say, listen, we need a solid centre back in the squad and you're going to have to play through something?
Oh, I don't know. As in, like, bring somebody else.
No, ask Godoy to play, even if he's like 85, 90%.
I think that's a bad idea, especially considering I don't think our centre backs in the first game or in the preseason, Kamiri and Cornelius, they did pretty good.
I think Kamiri was not good. In preseason.
In preseason, I did not think he was good. In the game, I actually thought he was quite decent.
Okay, let's separate this a little bit. On the ball, good or bad?
I think mediocre.
Okay, Peter?
Yeah, mediocre.
Off the ball?
Really good. Like, he was winning headers.
Okay. Peter, you agree with that?
Decent.
Okay. Maybe I was too influenced by my preseason opinion of him.
I mean, maybe I was selectively looking at things, but I just thought the tackles he put in and he had the clearances and stuff like that, and I thought that was, and I mean that's what counts.
I don't think he was.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he was the biggest problem, at all, right?
Which is why I'm like, why rush Godoy back if he's performing well enough?
Yeah,
he's performing well.
And I guess it is a baptism of fire,
And how much has he played anyway?
It's true.
So you may as well give him a chance.
Well, yeah. Today is Tuesday, so what we have is reports from training yesterday and today. I think they're training the rest of the week all the way through, so who knows, he could join up at some point.
It's a thin line between wanting to give the experience, because I don't think any of us here think that Cornelius or Kamiri are going to be the starting duo for the foreseeable future, barring something extraordinary.
I think Cornelius is probably a bit safer than Kamiri.
I don't know.
In terms
DeSantis is quite high on Kamiri, but regardless, it's a thin line between wanting to give them experience and also you don't want the morale. The Whitecaps had a lot of grit at the start of last year. It's actually for the first 2 games, even though they didn't get any results. They got a tie here and there, but you can't let that morale fall too much. Due to losses. Yeah,
it's a good point. There's been a lot of discussion, Nick, about the formation kind of coming back into question. Surely one game isn't enough to determine if the 4-2-3-1 isn't going to work, right? Or is it more personnel-based, do you think?
I think, well, I mean, like you said, I think one sample size really isn't enough to make a determination. But I think, Vancouver as a team has historically had good success with 4-2-3-1 for what that's worth.
With Pedro Morales in the team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think that also speaks to a little bit how disjointed and what this 4-2-3-1 would need. It needs somebody to link in that midfield, because the midfield was non-existent.
Yeah.
That's a good talking point. I mean, do you think that I'm at least seeing Glass City on Twitter attributed the midfield disaster to our 2 holding midfielders, regardless of how well a job they did, versus Kansas's 3.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think that if we I don't know who those 2 holding midfielders are going to be, but if the best 2 of the crop that we have now perform not just well but quite well, can they hold down a midfield? Because, I mean, the 4-2-3-1, Nick's right, the 4-2-3-1, judging by our personnel and also historical success, has served the Whitecaps well.
I think you touched on a really good point on being outnumbered, right? So, we can talk about this because Galaxy also play a 4-3-3. And it's one of those, where the midfield 3 are narrow so that the forward 3 can be wide kind of a thing. And I think if you have the right personnel in there, not just in the 2 midfield holding positions, but also in the forward positions, ideally one of the 3 attacking midfielders drops back to help you out when the other team are passing the ball in triangles, so you can kind of cover at least the tip of the triangle kind of a thing. Personnel wise, I think in an ideal world, I think what hopefully is going through Mark Dos Santos' mind is when he has everyone available, everyone fit, Ingbaum and Owusu will be the 2 that start. I've heard some talk of Ingbaum maybe playing in the 10 role or playing further forward, whatever that means. What do you guys think of that?
I mean, he played further forward last year.
Yeah.
And I thought, judging on last year, playing him further forward isn't a bad idea because he was able to be more creative.
And he would close down
expressive,
further up the field too.
And last game, it didn't feel like we really had that creative link in terms of like the free flowing of play.
I thought that was supposed to be Reyna, though, right?
He couldn't even get the ball from Tiber to Reyna.
Well, there was two times in the entire game where the Whitecaps broke out of the Kansas trap. One was when Reyna made a move, and I think that was in the second half. Actually, both of these were in the second half. Reyna made a move and broke away, and Whitecaps ran at Kansas' defense, and then I forget what happened. The second time was when Ingbaum received the ball deep, and he did this really good flick to kind of throw the defender that was closing him down off as he was receiving the ball, and then that opened it up for everything. So, I don't know. I think you need as many players on in the team as possible who can break the lines, right, of the opposing team. And I'm going to say I like Ingbaum in that deeper position. I know what he can bring in the more attacking position, but I still think Reyna offers more of an offensive threat in the 10 role, if that's where we see him playing.
Well, how is Bical going? Or I don't know how you pronounce it, but is he?
Let's go with Bical.
Yeah, Bical.
For Nick's sake, let's go with Bical. Yeah.
Is he going to be our number 6, or is he going to be a right back?
So he apparently he can play both, but all the highlights seem to indicate he plays in the middle.
And considering how well Nerwinski did, I don't think he bad last game by any stretch.
Nerwinski, I think he was voted man of the match, and I think fairly so.
Yeah, he had some ridiculous.
Oh, he did actually. He was great going. Well, I'm judging this off the goal, but there was moments when the ball would be coming up or coming down his side of the field, and oh my god, he was out of position, and
just like, too, though.
Well, that too, but just making reckless just lunges.
Sure, but is that a function of what they want? Given preseason, right?
True.
It seems like they were okay with moving them forward aggressively, in the hope that one of our holding midfielders would be able to cover for them.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. The fullbacks push up and the midfielders drop back. That's why the midfielders always got the ball so deep, and then they weren't able to make the connecting passes, right?
But were they dropping back enough to cover those overlapping runs?
I don't think the Whitecaps lost because they couldn't cover on the transition, right? They lost because of the second and third phase of play. So the Kinda goal, the ball was cut back to the top of the box.
That's just a death spot.
Yeah, and it's been a soft spot even last year, right? So it should be one of the holding midfielders who drop back, who then, when the back line has its shape, push forward to occupy that space, and they just didn't do that, right? So the top of the box was open for them. Yeah, the third goal, we can't really attribute that to anything. And the first goal was just...
Except Hurtado being clinical.
Oh, yeah, which, was probably...
Felt like I was 13 again.
Yeah. We could spend an hour on famous Hurtado chances, but anyway. Okay, so let's go back to the formation. Do we agree that we should, at least for the short term, we should stick with the 4-2-3-1?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't know. Ingbaum, Owusu, and Bical. Didn't Mark DeSantos say that in that Sportsnet interview that he went on, that he was considering the switch back to the 4-3-3 with one of those guys in midfield? So it's a question of, and then you have to ask yourself, what happens on the wings?
Well, Reyna would have to go back on the wing, and then Dahome and Milinkovic would fight for the other spot, and then Cavallini would be left as the center striker. I'm not saying it doesn't work. We're kind of thinking we have to make sure that Owusu and Bikel can work, are the players we think they are before we kind of...
That's true.
That's not even... We don't even know.
If the 4-2-3-1 can work, and you kind of get a winner between Owusu and Bical, which I think you inevitably will.
Yeah.
Not meaning that the two of them aren't so good in themselves that it would be a bad idea not to play both of them.
Yeah.
Then the 4-2-3-1 is probably best, just because Reyna is best in that number 10 position.
And I think for this LA game, in terms of formation matchups, I think you still have to go with the 4-2-3-1, just so you can kind of, if your idea is to overload the other team when you're attacking, you want to have the forward options available. The 4-2-3-1 offers more in that regard than the 4-3-3, because if your three midfielders get pinned, you have no support for your front three. And as we'll see, the three midfielders that LA are likely to play have more than enough ability to pin any Whitecaps midfield that you can put out there if there are three with no forward support. Just before we go through the team and make our decisions as if we were Mark Dos Santos, broadly speaking, tactically and in terms of decision making, what would you guys like to see be better? Were the team too quick to the long ball last week? Was it that they weren't making the right decisions in terms of movement? What do you guys think on that front?
I didn't like the collective movement in terms of, we touched on this last week, the gap between the number 6, the two holding midfielders and the attacking and the attack and kind of the front four. Oh my god, the gap was huge. Like, whenever the Whitecaps were playing out of the back constantly, but then it wouldn't be, Reyna wasn't often coming to collect. The two, or more importantly, Milinkovic and Dahomey were not both tracking back to create outlets for Tybert and Inbom, which is why I think Kansas' trap was so effective.
Yeah,
so I want to see maybe Reyna and Cavallini get a bit more, rope with that. But I think the wingers particularly need to attack as a unit. And if you want the fullbacks to push up, then you can let Tybert sit. Yeah. But like Milinkovic and Dahomey need to come back and then move up with Inbom.
Yeah. Any other comments on the shape, Nick, in terms of the attacking phases?
One thing I didn't like is how it almost felt like when we're trying to move it horizontally across the field from the back, they were so slow.
Yeah, and then the second or third ball would have to be a long one.
Ball, because they were so slow moving it across.
Yeah,
that by the time you get it over there,
yeah,
SKC was already set up.
Yeah, the pace of play was just that was one of the main things that was night and day of the preseason. It was just way slower, the ball movement and the movement off the ball.
Maybe that plays into the nerves that DeSantis was talking about a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. That sounds like a little bit like excuses making, but
it's a bit more fair because that is a confidence thing in terms of, as opposed to a tactical thing. Like if you're just not as confident.
But when I was watching the game in the stadium, I didn't feel like the players were nervous. I just felt like they were frustrated right from the beginning. And how much of that is nerves versus how much of that is actually frustration? It's I don't know. It seems like a little bit of hindsight, the benefit of hindsight, kind of playing into that a little bit.
You do have to be confident though to get through adversity like that. If you start getting pressed early on,
and it's the youngest team in the league, right?
Yeah, Peter Shedd said that on the commentary.
Yeah. Okay, so lots to learn. Let's go through the team. In goal, I think Crepeau, what can you do sometimes?
Yeah,
the Polito header, that was just no chance on that.
Yeah. The Hurtado shot was really good.
I don't think he saw. I don't think I watched the replay from the back behind the angle. Like he doesn't even see it until it's just way off of his foot.
Yeah. Kinda did a good job like curling that one. It was right. It was a postage stamp of a shot. Anyway, centre backs. We're sticking with Kamiri and Cornelius. What if Godoy is free? Who comes out? Out of Nerwinski, Cornelius, and Kamiri. Yeah.
It's a bit cruel to drop Nerwinski. So you'd have to think.
I would think Kamiri.
Yeah. I think just because Cornelius and Godoy played together, and
it's not that Kamiri didn't do a decent job.
But he's coming in having been injured last year, not his fault. Yeah. But but when you do come into a squad, whether you're injured or whether you're a new player, you have to earn the spot. Unless you're some European superstar that walks into the Galaxy lineup, you don't just walk into the spot.
Well, there's a little bit of this. You know how players get better the longer they're out of the team. I think there's a little bit of that going on with Godoy. Sure, he was probably the second best Whitecap last season, you could argue. Mm-hmm. But is he really going to single-handedly change the entire team?
Well, I'm actually happy if we are going to lose that game with Godoy or without Godoy. I'm actually happy he wasn't in that game, so we can walk in a bit more confident.
Yeah, true. Yeah, his self-esteem is pretty high right now, I imagine. Fullbacks, I don't think there's any change with Nerwinski and Adnan.
No, I think they both did a pretty reasonable job.
I was thinking, you know who the Whitecaps should sign if they are worried about the right back spot? Steven Badic was a free agent.
You think so?
He's a free agent.
Yeah.
And
he's pretty old.
But he's a backup. And then if it's really so shaky, Steven Badic has gone every place he's played, and he's right in saying this. Every single place he's played, he's been undervalued, and then they cut him, and then that team can't defend anymore. It's happened every single place.
He's played for some pretty bad teams, though. At the same time,
I know, but
he's also played for some pretty good teams.
Well, Toronto's he played for San Jose and Vancouver, who were, I think we could put them in the category of bad teams.
Hey.
But Toronto were really underestimated how much of an impact he had. And LAFC, they're not exactly the defensive stalwart. That's partly Walker Zimmerman, but it's
Zimmerman's a huge miss for them. Like honestly,
I think that's a terrible trade. I don't think MLS GMs understand how important the MLS top 5 center back is to your team. It is really important.
I don't. What did they get for him? Like a bunch of money and an international spot.
$1 million in allocation, I think.
That's not bad.
It's not bad, but like,
but it's I think he brings a lot more worth being there on your team.
And I guess Dallas really suffered after he left too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes.
Just disaster.
Yeah, that's another effect.
And they lost.
And then Minnesota.
And the Whitecaps with Waston.
Him, right?
I'm just kidding about the Waston thing. Midfielders, are we seeing... all right, let's go. If Uwosu is not available, still Tybert and Ingbaum?
I think so.
Well, I don't think
if he is available, does Tybert come out? Is this the game to put Uwosu in?
For Uwosu?
I think so.
Well, I mean... It's a bit harsh in some sense because honestly, Ingbaum had a much worse game than Tybert.
Yes, he did.
So
but he also has a lot higher upside.
So there's the upside. I feel like it's. I mean, I'm also in the camp of Tybert is not a starting 11 MLS midfielder, but it's also I feel kind of bad that he keeps having to earn his spot every single year.
Yeah. How many
but
times?
But it's also it's spot by default, so you didn't earn it, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think we all still think he's going to become that player who scored 2 goals against the Galaxy.
I mean, it is the team that he scored 2.
It's true, actually. Yeah, he has form against.
That wasn't last year. He scored in Toronto in 2018.
Yeah, every time he takes a shot, it's like a unicorn. It's so rare. In the attacking positions, Reyna is probably going to start in the 10. Milinkovic got a lot of praise for his performance on the weekend.
And I think he rightly so.
I think so as well.
When he set up that goal, fantastic.
Yeah. He just, I think if he could take people on more often, I would like that a lot more. Milinkovic, Peter? Yeah. Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Seems like Vancouver's a lot more like Scotland than Hull.
Yeah. I think Michael McCall would agree with that one. Right mid, Dahomey, as long as he doesn't flop as much.
Yeah, He's somebody's gonna tell him about VAR. It's not,
but
he can't do that here.
Yeah, I think in preseason he went over and he won a penalty and it got turned over by VAR. Whitecaps had 2 VAR.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking of the one where he should have had the shot.
Yeah, that was just bad refereeing. But who are the options?
Yeah, who would replace them?
Well, Raposa's the only one that replace him right now. And
would that be an upgrade?
No,
it's such a wild card, especially if the Galaxy.
I think Raposo. Yeah. I haven't seen much of Raposo. Obviously, he didn't play much, but he seems to bring energy, which can't be a bad thing. But he was super well spoken, and he did well in his preseason. I think is a bit spiked because his goals, I believe, were in the not on camera games. The Dallas
game, I think was where his goals were. He had 2, so maybe he got one somewhere else. But yeah. Well, it's not a realistic option, I don't think.
No, unlike Reyna moved to the wing for the last 20 minutes or 15 minutes of the game against Kansas when Montero came in for Milinkovic. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, maybe something there. Montero in the number 10 position, Reyna on the right wing or left wing.
But I feel like if that's the case, then I don't know if
it's pretty aggressive.
4-2-3-1 would be a good formation for that.
4-2-3-1 is the only formation you can fit Freddie Montero and Lucas Cavallini in.
Yeah.
And I would also argue the same for Reyna and Cavallini because I think we've seen enough of Reyna on the wing to realize it's not to our interest to put him there.
Yeah, don't rain him on the wing.
Yeah, that's just my opinion. Center forward, Cavallini. I think that's safe to go with.
I think he should have had
2
goals, but
I think one of those 2 would have been fair. Yeah.
Put it to nerves.
Yeah, I think because he should ideally for the Whitecaps be a 1 goal a game kind of person.
That's what we said. I don't know if it was on the podcast or as we were going to the stadium, but he should be a goal a game. It was going to the stadium. Sorry.
If he can get that goal a game, that puts you in a lot more.
Well, if he gets a goal a game, he's like the golden boot. I think you can expect. I would like to see Kai Kamara production like Lucas Cavallini. I like to see a goal every
2 games.
Every 2 games. I actually was looking at Kai Kamara's Wikipedia the other day for some reason. Every single place he's gone, he gets a goal every 2 games or more. It's really impressive.
Is that including Norwich? Where he's...
Oh, okay, no, not Norwich.
He scored a goal in his first game in Norwich.
He's done better since even in his latter years, 27 onward, he's done better.
Maybe he's just getting smarter.
Well, he scored in the opening day.
He did, yeah.
He did it. Age.
Yeah, he did that. He did his thing of, the goalie jumps up for the ball, but he jumps in front of the path of the ball of the goalie and got there before. Like, the guy scores goals. Honestly,
should have kept him.
Probably.
I don't think so. I think he wanted more than he was worth in terms of salary.
Got to get paid, and
it's true.
And he's in the twilight of his career. So
well, Colorado looked pretty good. That was the for some reason that was the first game of the MLS season, and let's just say the first half did not spark joy, as you would hope. All right, that's the Whitecaps preview taken care of. It's time for this week's Do You Know Who I Am? Alright guys, so Peter's up on the standings at this early stage of the Do You Know Who I Am season. Nick, are you feeling excited for this week?
As long as I don't get shut out.
Yeah. Really very Optimist Union take on the Do You Know Who I Am season. Unfortunately, Gideon is not feeling well, so he won't be able to take part this week. But here we go. First clue. I am a MLS player with 52 caps and 6 goals for my country. So, not a goalkeeper you can take from that. I have played for 4 MLS teams. Okay. I spent 5 years playing for Anderlecht.
Stop Andy Nahar.
No, not Andy Nahar. The first MLS team I played for was Chivas USA. Rest in peace.
I was too young.
Yeah. I then went on to play for the Red Bulls, Orlando, and now one of the LA teams.
Stop. Sasha Kleshin.
Sasha Kleshin! Congratulations.
Not shut out.
Not shut out. Yeah, very good. Actually, there was a small error. He hasn't played for LA yet, but
he will.
He will. Actually, he didn't
play.
Okay, there you go.
No,
all right, okay. My clue was flawless then. Congratulations, Nick. That was this week's Do You Know Who I Am? Okay, speaking of LA, let's get into it. Kleshin joined the team, one of their many off-season acquisitions. There's the big name ones, which we'll talk about in a bit, but there's also, Kleshin, Katai from Chicago. That one surprised me a lot, because he was a good player for Chicago, right?
And, I kind of makes sense, because he played as the kind of winger forward.
Yeah,
role.
My impression of him in Chicago of Katai was that he would drift a lot, behind. Was it Nikolic that time who played for Chicago? What was one of their strikers? But he would do the drifting and set piece kind of a thing. And I guess now with Pavon and Chicharito in the squad, maybe he wants to do the same kind of a thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it could be a really good threat. And I mean, I think any MLS backline would be afraid of those two, and then add in Katai who can score and set up goals. I
remember the pundits kind of analysts of him over the offseason was that he was a very valuable free agent because his just underlying numbers in terms of assists and chance creation was how much just he boosted a team's XG.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when he goes from a team like Chicago to a team like LA, which you think LA would have more chances, right? But how many of those chances will be down to him versus, the other creative forces? Because in Chicago,
he kind of have been the man.
Yeah. It might be harsh to say that, but Schweinsteiger isn't making his way up the pitch to do a through ball, right? He's very much staying at home. So Katai would be, he's less relied on, but interesting to see if that opens up other sides of his game too. Certainly that kind of a player. Peter, the other signing that we just can't not talk about, who didn't have a great game last game, to be fair, is Chicharito.
Javier Hernandez.
Yes.
Yeah, no, he is the biggest MLS signing this offseason, or at least arguably so.
So I wrote down on the running order, I think it was a little bit later, but where does Chicharito rank on let's just go with LA. Just their DP kind of a ranking. I will not tolerate any anti-Robbie Keane chat, so we'll just leave that at the door.
No, I like Robbie Keane.
But Robbie Keane was like legitimately really, really good.
Good man, Nick. Thank you. Yeah, no, of course. Robbie Keane was like proven. His record in MLS speaks for itself.
I didn't know you when there was that speculation about Robbie Keane coming to the Whitecaps.
I was actually totally against that because never meet your heroes. That's why.
Oh, actually true.
Yeah. No, I think he would have done well because I think Keane and Robbo played at Wolves.
They played
together.
at Wolves.
Yeah.
And then, Keane, I think, wanted a max TAM deal or a designated player contract, and it was just too risky for the Caps.
Yeah. No, I think since then, Keane hasn't been up to much. He might have even retired.
He moved to
A-League?
he moved to the Indian Super League.
Oh, yeah. That's
for
just
which
payday.
is like they have they play like 12 games a season or something.
Yeah. Wow. Because they can't compete with cricket.
He played like 6 appearances for them, and then he retired.
Yeah.
Didn't he coach... Oh no, that's Roy Keane.
Yeah.
Keane.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same player. Yeah. No. So yeah, back to Javier Hernandez. Like, a great resume. First of all, like just his national team, stature alone, right? Like Mr. Mexico or whatever they would call him.
Captain Mexico?
Probably. Like, he's one of the players that they like heavily
I'd root for him.
on.
It's Captain America.
Yeah, should be. I wonder who could play soccer better. Anyway, yeah, like, let's say, so, Zlatan gone, Chicharito in, like, not in terms of
similar personality.
Not personality, but like the ambiance or the cloud around the player. Same size cloud. In LA, if anything, bigger cloud for Hernandez than Ibrahimovic.
Ibrahimovic was so likable in terms of, and just, he did so much off the pitch and on it. But there you can, like, Chicharito has been a player that fans across this league have wanted to see for years.
Yeah.
He is the other than bringing in Cristiano Ronaldo to LA, honestly, I think Chicharito is the biggest signing that the Galaxy could bring in terms of, like, right now, in terms of just putting bums in seats.
Yeah, well, so
Mexican population in Los Angeles.
Houston sold out their stadium, which Houston.
Yeah, I know.
Never
That was
happens.
remarkable.
Do you think that LA Galaxy is afraid of LAFC, and that's kind of why they're really...
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Because, like, LAFC have a really good product.
So
they came in and they kind of were like, we don't care that you've been here, you old fogies, boomers, whatever.
There's an interesting like yin-yang thing happening between Galaxy and LAFC, which are the two schools of thought for MLS squad building.
Yeah.
And Galaxy, obviously, in the last few years they haven't really gone with the big name thing until Ibrahimovic joined. Like, that gap between Keane and Ibrahimovic, there was kind of some weird stuff going on, but the LAFC haven't gone completely the other way either, right? They have good young players, but they still rely on Vea and players that they pick up here and there who have some pedigree. But I agree with you, Peter. Like, I think Ronaldo, Messi, and Chicharito are the three like top players you could have brought in. And Ronaldo and Messi aren't going anywhere, and Chicharito was probably the right time in his career for him to move. Yeah, he was with Sevilla last, I think.
Yeah, he was with Sevilla for, I think, roughly 6 months.
Yeah, and before that he was with Leverkusen.
No, West Ham.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was. After he left West Ham, he should have just gone to the Galaxy. But they have. Or came to MLS, but all's well that ends well.
Yeah, like, I think his career peaked at probably Leverkusen. He was on.
Yeah, I'd say Leverkusen was his top market
and
value.
he was just a bench player in at United. I think he had loan.
Yeah, loan at Real Madrid.
Real Madrid, yeah. Him and Adebayor had loans at Real Madrid for weird reasons. Anyway, yeah. So
they got money to spend.
They have too much money to spend by the looks of it. So yeah, Chicharito, obviously centre forward. If anyone, for whatever reason, hasn't seen him play a game before, he's the ultimate poacher, right? Half chance in the box, it's a goal, kind of a thing. And as we mentioned before, Katai will probably play in one of the front three positions along with Christian Pavon, who scored an amazing goal last week. You guys had a chance to see that one?
Yeah, that was a really good goal. Yeah. But David Bingham he made up for the fact that he was the sole reason they conceded the one goal the Galaxy gave up, but he's the one who assisted that goal.
Yeah, Bingham assisted, yeah. Stats speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Bingham giveth, Bingham take it away. Kind of a thing. Nick, have you seen enough of Pavon to kind of have a judgment on his talent?
Not really.
No?
Like, in all honesty, like, I think, just from the previous game, like, he seems to be like an excellent addition, and like
I think he's still technically on loan too.
I think he's still technically on loan. I can confidently tell you though, from watching Christian Pavon, he is the Galaxy's best player.
Yeah,
and he is the player that is going to get 20+ goals in LA. It is not Chicharito.
Interesting. So you think he'll have more goals than Chicharito?
Yeah,
because like for his goal, he picked up the ball at the halfway line and had to drive forward himself, right? To me, that means that he's to be fair to
Chicharito made very intelligent runs that pulled the two Houston central defenders away from Pavon to give him the space to cut in from the Houston right back and curl it.
Yeah,
because and that's great from the Galaxy's perspective. People are focused on Chicharito.
Who's going to take penalties for that team?
Definitely Chicharito.
Yeah, because they have Pavon.
For the fans.
It's
probably in his contract.
He also captained the team on his first ever start for them, so that's in his contract too. But they have Pavon, they have Kleshchin, Leggett, I think has taken penalties before. Bingham, you wouldn't surprise me if he took
penalty.
But like we've talked about this front line now for like 10 minutes or so. It's because they're really, really good, right? Like we like Katai is the worst player in their front three, and I would have him any day of the week at the Whitecaps. It's just not fair. In the mid, let's talk about the midfield three a little bit. We have Leggett, who I think before I know he played centrally for a bit, but he played wide for a while too.
He's kind of like a utility, almost. Player.
He shifted into. He shifted into a central midfielder role in the last couple of years. He used to be a left winger, I think. But he's just become a box to box kind of guy.
Because they would have Leggett on one side and Alessandrini on the other, I remember, and they were super dangerous. Alessandrini would play up front sometimes too, depending on what was going on. But Leggett
But he can do everything. He can pick a pass. Yeah, he can win the ball back.
And is strong player, doesn't hurt. Speaking of strong players, Perry Kitchen. Settled in nicely. He seemed like a weird signing when he joined.
I watched Perry. I think I'm probably being unfair to Perry Kitchen, but I remember watching him in the Minnesota game, and I really wanted the Galaxy to win just because I liked Zlatan, or just wanted to see more of Zlatan. But I remember I watched the game, and I'm like, Perry Kitchen constantly was like the exact opposite place of where he was supposed to be. Like he kept every time he should have pushed forward, drop back. And I'm like, You're killing
He's
me.
very much like, to borrow a hockey term, he's a stay-at-home defensive kind of a player. But the kind of guy you want to pick up the ball and then just give it to someone else who's more creative, right? He fits.
He's kind of like Russell Tybert, to be perfectly honest, but but worse. But no, I think he's worse than Russell Tybert.
Controversially, I would take Perry Kitchen over Russell Tybert.
I wouldn't.
Positionally, Perry Kitchen is
basically a center back.
someone has to defend.
Well, no, but like he's a centre back, not in the centre back position. He's just.
Well, like Tybert, like the goal kick thing they were doing last week.
Yeah, it was not.
It's fancy and new and shiny, but I don't think it was very functional.
That wasn't very functional.
Yeah. The third person who makes up the midfield three for the Galaxy is Sasha Kleshchin, the subject of our Do You Know Who I Am? Yeah. Among other accolades, he's a great MLS creative force.
Creative force,
yeah. Actually, I think he leads assists among active players in the league. Like, so he's been around for a long time. I think among like active and inactive, he's in the top 15 or 10 or something like that. So
hasn't he got like 100 appearances for the Red Bulls or like something ridiculous? Because that's where he was like just an assist king.
Force.
Yeah. Well, he actually played more games for Chivas than he did for the Red Bulls, and in between.
Chivas was a dumpster fire, so I mean,
he was there during their like less of dumper. Yeah,
I think he was there.
Smaller dumpster.
Yeah, pre Tommy McNamara. Chivas, I like to call them. Like so. I don't know. We kind of talked about how defensive Perry Kitchen is, how much of a utility player Leggett is, and then how creative Kleshchin is. That sounds like a really balanced midfield.
It sounds a decently balanced midfield. Well, but I would agree that Kitchen is probably your...
Well, you're forgetting the Galaxy's other superstar Mexican, that's Jonathan Dos Santos.
Yeah.
I just checked, he's questionable with a groin strain.
Okay.
So that's... Because I noticed that, and I watched the Galaxy's game against Houston, I noticed he wasn't there.
Who comes out...
Would he add anything
He plays as their 6, which is so random.
So Perry Kitchen drops out.
Yeah, Perry Kitchen drops out. It'll be legit and question.
So that would scare me quite a bit, honestly.
No, it's really... I don't understand... The Galaxy, for the longest time, they've always kind of blamed their defense on their center backs, much like the Whitecaps have. When really, I think the problem has been they've never held a defensive midfielder since I can't remember when they had a solid. Or it was Nigel de Jong. That's the last time they've had a proper central midfielder as their defensive midfielder.
He's more of a judo instructor than a defensive midfielder. Yeah, I see what you mean, but they're just such a top heavy team that you can't help to blame the people at the back for it. Yeah. Actually, so I was just looking at the formation.
For this?
Well, I was just looking at the formation and how it's all laid out. And Guillermo Barros is a great coach. I think we can all agree on that. But it looks like he's tried to shoehorn all these attacking players in. He's I can't not play Katai. Of course, Katai has to play, right?
He himself is an attacker.
That's true.
My mindset is more like, defense will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, his
outshoot them.
Outshoot them,
yeah.
His favorite formation at Boca was 4-3-3 attacking. He's an attacking minded coach. Which which fits the Galaxy's profile. They're an attacking minded team.
That's very much an alignment of approaches or strategies. Yeah. Let's touch on the backline. We mentioned Bingham before,
decent.
A very cap-friendly goalkeeper in terms of the salary cap.
Yeah. Could have been David Ostad.
It could have. But he joined...
If not for the league.
He joined the team that Zlatan owns, right?
Hammarby, yeah. Happy for David. But
he's back in his region of the world. Not his country, but same region. Backline, we have Rolf Feltscher, who looked very good. I watched the first half of that game against Houston. Looked really good, making some key tackles.
Rolf Feltscher was actually... He came from Cardiff to the Galaxy a couple of years back, and I thought he was really, really poor when I watched their games a couple of years ago. But he had a hell of a game.
I think he was part of that team. Remember when Galaxy sent a B team and they beat the Whitecaps? I think he was playing that day, and he played quite well. There's a couple of names. So I know Insua is a new signing. From Stuttgart, I think.
He's had an impressive career, actually.
Well, he's a Football Manager all-star.
Is he?
One of the first people you would sign around Football Manager 2012 would be him. Yeah, they have a different Gonzalez, not Omar Gonzalez.
Giancarlo.
Yeah, and then the name I wasn't sure if it was around last year was Dupuy.
Yeah, this is I searched that up because I was like, I think I know that name. He played as a striker for Ottawa Fury.
Really?
Same guy?
Same guy.
Huh.
Whoa.
So kind of random.
Huh.
Interesting.
But he is a defender. I looked at his transfer market, and he's a central defender on transfer market now.
Interesting.
But he was definitely in the forward, on Ottawa. He was definitely a forward.
That's
I didn't watch him at striker, but
I wonder if that's
what he was listed as.
I wonder if that's a database confusion.
It might be, but
so. I don't know if people would know this, but there's a guy called John Charles. He's an old Welsh player, decades and decades ago. But he would play centre back and centre forward for Wales, and I forget what club he played for in the UK. And he also moved to Italy. He was so successful, and he's a legend in Italy. But he was so good that he would score a goal and then play centre back for the rest of the game. So look him up if you have a chance. John Charles. He's a player that you should know about that not enough people know about. That's just a tangent that I went on there.
So he's like
the Kendall Was. No, I won't say that. So backline. I think the conclusion is nothing super impressive there. Insua is a good player. But a left back does not a defense make, so to speak. Can be got at. I think is where I would land on the.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Because the team is so top heavy, and if they're very attacking, that might.
But you also touched on a point that it could go one of two ways. The Whitecaps could lose 4-0 or win 2-0, right?
Or it could be
4-2,
or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, surprisingly, when I watched the Galaxy's game, I mean, I know Joe, you watched the first half as well. It was different from what you'd watched last year, because last year it was very much like a complete dumpster fire at the back.
Yeah.
just the definition of dumpster fire. And it was the Zlatan show up front. The Galaxy against Houston were actually quite defensively solid and not that great in the final third.
They looked like they were working stuff out.
Yeah.
And, like, how much of that is the fact that the focal point of their team wasn't up to full fitness, and it needed a Pavon wonder goal to get them on the score sheet. Like, I think they are also a team that are working things out, but from afar, they definitely look like a more appealing prospect in terms of a work in progress than the Whitecaps.
Yeah, and that Jonathan Dos Santos is going to help on that. If he is available, he's very good at being a box to box. Like he's not a defensive midfielder, but even when playing that position, he is really great at getting balls and creating chances, because they were lacking that connection a bit. They did a lot of long balls, actually.
That was definitely the name of the game last season for them.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chicharito and kind of goal scoring and all that kind of a thing, let's go to some questions from the Twitter sphere. Dental Damnation asks the kind gentleman here, what over or under on Chicharito scoring a hat trick?
Under.
Yeah, I'd definitely take the under.
I think, I would go with the under too. I was going to be a contrarian for a second, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Over.
Yeah. 4 goals. I don't know.
4 goals.
Yeah.
Like if the Galaxy are parked in the Whitecaps box the whole game, any ball that isn't cleared is going to land at Hernandez's feet.
I don't think we would be devoting our time to hosting a Whitecaps podcast show if we were that unconfident.
Watch him get 4 now. Watch him get 4. Yeah. We've got kind of a more introspective question from Ben Cooper, Whitecats. He says he's feeling let down by the game on Saturday. He says, I'm typically one to catastrophize negative events. Bracket, he's working on it. Good for you, Ben. Is there anything to indicate that the Caps won't have another start like they did last season? Struggling to see positives. For me, I think yes, based on the players that have to come into the team are exciting, and I think they're also further along the development cycle than they were this time last season with the messed up preseason. What do you guys think?
I would agree that the messed up preseason last year didn't help. I still think I would be a little bit more hesitant just because of the problems, getting in players. And I mean, we also had that problem last year as well. So, I don't know.
Was that visa stuff, or was that just the fact that we just signed everybody super late?
I think it was definitely more that they signed people late, but I think the visa definitely played a part in it too.
Well, I'll take answer both sides. I think I would say yes, in the sense that there are really good, or there's a lot of exciting players coming in with potential. I watched the Kinda, or not Kinda, that's the Kansas player, Bikel highlights that. Let's never talk about that again.
Kansas was fantastic.
I watched the Bikel highlights, and oh my god, his turn is fantastic. He just. Oh, it's exactly what you will need in the midfield too if you're getting pressed. And yeah, there's a lot. And the team that you saw on Saturday was not all that different than the team that was on the team last year. I would counter to that the Whitecaps are the youngest squad, and our new signing, Dong's not making it any older in the league, and that is a seriously tall task. It's high risk, high reward for Marc Dos Santos, and it's the philosophy that we should be following, but. It is, it's a young squad, and I think it's going to be difficult if the team does start losing by a lot.
Yeah.
The locker room, it's going to be tough because you don't have your Scott Sutters, you don't have your David Edgars, you don't have guys in there that know what it's like to be in relegation battles. I think that's where
even
it's
the
really
older
depressing.
players, I wouldn't necessarily call them, leaders Montero. Seems like more kind of quiet guy rather than a grab you by the scruff of the neck kind of guy.
Yeah.
No, I definitely see your points, and it's going to come to the natural leaders in the team. So Adnan, Crepeau, Tybert. You would hope Cavallini is that kind of a person too. It's gonna come down to things like that, and it's going to be fascinating to look at in the coming months and throughout the whole season.
But I think you also touched on a really important thing that the Whitecaps are pursuing. A proper strategy. Right?
Yeah.
They're trying to be younger. They're trying to find new talent, not bringing in older
known
talent,
quantities or
known quantities.
Yeah, interesting.
Right, and cool. I think in the last couple of years in the MLS, those, to go back to the LAFC versus Galaxy kind of philosophy battle that's going on, I think the younger teams have been more. I
think it's absolutely the way that the league is trending, and it's absolutely the way that your team should want to go. You do have to acknowledge that, like, you know, if, for example, when some of the teams in the league have developed good young players, like, let's not talk about Dallas or stuff, but like, let's take New York City FC and James Sands, who's 19 years old. He was like a completely unknown quantity last year, and New York City FC is a really good team. And then when you put a young player into a system like that, it helps. So like the Whitecaps will need to add quality, bit more seasons, 27 plus pieces into this squad to, like, maybe they're temp signs, maybe they're DPs, but they do need to build a structure around which they can pick and choose which young players deserve the chance to be in the team. Whereas when you play in a team that's entirely young players, it's going to be really difficult for the Whitecaps to. Yeah.
It's an interesting point.
About organizational structure or
squad building structure. I think it's a good point. This may not be the team that the Whitecaps will win with, but it should be the team that they're working towards winning with, right? Yeah. Like, I don't think anyone's under the illusion that the Whitecaps are going to win MLS Cup this year.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, that'd be very surprising.
It would be. But are we trying to build a platform for the next few years, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll have preview pods on the whole way just to watch. We'll stop the preview pod when we win MLS Cup. How about that? Yeah.
Somebody's going to hold you to their...
yeah, please stop the preview pod. Speaking of that, actually, shout out to a listener who would only go by the name Red Racer, who Nick and I ran into before the game. Thank you for your very kind words and the fun discussion we had. Yeah, and congratulations on your strategy for avoiding the line at the bar, too. That was extremely intelligent.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you caught that one, Nick, but it was the man played it well. All right, gentlemen, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Peter Hickens on Twitter.
Cool. And Nick, your Gmail and home address?
No, that I won't be releasing.
Oh, okay.
If you really wanted to talk to me, you can just buzz me on Twitter at SpaceAgeRobot56.
And you can find me at JoeDCVan. Thank you very much for listening to the AFTN podcast. Enjoy the game.
When you're listening on some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? Legendary names, fathers and sons, on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pint for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football.